There's no doubt about it at all, that 2023 was the absolute worst year for the Walt Disney Company, not just because of the ongoing box office failures, but also due to the fact that it landed on their 100th anniversary. This was obviously the worst year for Bob Iger, the worst year for the board of directors, and every single division over at this company, especially Marvel Studios and Lucasfilm, for example. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So, Bob Iger, I still stand by my opinion that he is the absolute worst CEO over at Disney out of all. You know, we know that Bob Chapek had his fair share over at the company, but there's no doubt about it that Bob Iger really outperformed as the worst CEO of all time. Now, we know that at the same exact time, Bob Iger is a liar. That's why everyone, including myself, like to call him Bob Iger. He will lie and say whatever he has to say to string along the shareholders and to really provide false promises to the customers about the direction of the company and everything with Marvel, Star Wars, Disney in general, etc., etc. Now, what's interesting about this is that we know that lately Disney has been going through multiple emergency meetings every single month. I mean, that's how bad it has gotten over at Disney, and everything related to the direction of where they want to go for 2025, and most importantly, I would say, for 2026, which is going to be, by the way, the very last year for Bob Iger. Now, interestingly enough, this is where things begin to escalate even further. Now, with Bob Iger and the board holding many emergency meetings a month in a desperate move to create new strategies to stabilize, of course, the Walt Disney Company, one significant development coming out of that now involves how the board of directors recently held the most important emergency meeting that took place in May. That goes to show how much of a mess Bob Iger truly is at Disney. Now, already multiple board members are putting massive pressure on Bob Iger for several things. One crucial update going on right now is that multiple board members are already calling for Bob Iger to cancel the Snow White 2025 film, not just due to the ongoing expensive reshoots in a desperate attempt to save the film, but to also save whatever the potential negative domino effect it will have on other Disney live-action remakes. Half of the board members reportedly called for Iger to fully cancel Snow White. In addition to this, those same board members are now calling for Kathleen Kennedy's firing at Lucasfilm, and it is described to be coming in as a response to the backlash that they've received for the Acolyte series, and how after releasing 2 trailers related to the Acolyte, Disney analysts reported to the board that a significant sudden decline, actually of course in Star Wars viewership, occurred on Disney Plus took place. Now, the board reportedly informed Iger that this was no coincidence and that it was certainly related to the recent issues for the Acolyte series. However, other board members are protecting Kathleen Kennedy's role at Lucasfilm at all costs. What's even more severe, of course, than that is that even, of course, after everything and what was approved by the board, is that hundreds of Pixar employees would be fired on top of the other hundreds that were already fired. In this emergency meeting, of course, that took place, this was all greenlit. The board is now calling for hundreds more on top of that to be fired from Pixar, as they aim to make Pixar one of the smaller divisions at the Walt Disney Company for at least 2 years to create a pattern, to reduce spending. Cutbacks on the marketing for Inside Out 2 are also happening and are also underway in the wake of this meeting that will result in virtually 50% less TV spots and footage released for that film that's set to debut in June. Now, the shakeup happening right now between many board members on different concerns are said to vary greatly. These are very, of course, serious conversations happening of canceling up to 5 Disney live-action remakes, for starters, of the animated classics that are already in the pipeline after The Lion King, Mufasa, received backlash as well. However, Iger and the board members that agree with him are taking a stand to protect those films at all costs to enhance their DEI agenda, one of which is said to be Sword in the Stone. To make things even more embarrassing for Disney, one thing that was recently approved in this emergency board meeting is that the Pirates of the Caribbean reboot film will be receiving a significant 30% budget cutback to reduce spending on that movie. This will also include marketing costs. The biggest arguments, however, happening right now is how Bob Iger and the board members that support him are moving forward with dumping more funds into Snow White 2025 reshoots that will, of course, reportedly cost an extra $75 million just for starters, with the likelihood of that going up at least 7 to 10% if reshoots extend another 3 months in total. So let me just stop here before I move on again. Now, look, we know that Snow White is going to be an epic disaster for 2025, and it's not going to be a good momentum, so to speak, for that year. You already have Captain America 4 debuting in February, and that has a lot of baggage as it is, and very much likely to fail at the box office if they don't get things on track. But when you have Snow White coming in roughly 1 month later, that is not a good sign for the Walt Disney Company, and that's exactly why the board is calling for a full-on cancellation of this movie, alright? Not all board members, but a good chunk of them, like I said before, roughly 50% of them, are calling for this movie to be cancelled. And that is very revealing about what the current status of the Walt Disney Company is at right now. The fact that you have a massive film such as Snow White 2025, and I only say massive in the term of how much money is going into this thing. Not that it's going to be a big success, but it has a lot of money that was actually invested into it, and that is very much, a prime example of how Disney loves to overspend. Look at Doom Part 2, just look at the budget for that film, the fact that it's significantly less than anything that Disney puts out there and how it was a huge hit just goes to show you that it is all possible, that you can most certainly tighten your budget and make things look incredible. So there's no reason to have these movies way up there in 400, 500 million plus, in the budget to really make a movie great. So moving onwards, we already know that the board are now beginning to question Kathleen Kennedy's role over at Lucasfilm. Now, like I said before, this is all a division over at Disney, alright? Not all board members agree about that, but a good chunk, roughly half, the same board that wants the Snow White film cancelled, no longer want Kathleen Kennedy running the show over at Lucasfilm, because guess what? Kathleen Kennedy is looking to extend her contract yet again. I don't know if you guys knew this, but 2024, this year, is the very year that her contract is supposed to expire. But she is now looking to extend it yet again for at least another 3 years. And the board, well, they don't want that to happen. To a degree, alright? To a degree. Some members of the board do not want to see that happen over at Lucasfilm. So I would love to hear what everyone has to say about everything happening with Inside Out 2, Snow White, Lucasfilm / Kathleen Kennedy, the Pirates of the Caribbean film, and everything related to all of the upcoming expensive failures at Disney. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.